In all honesty, I think we all can agree that this AAA gaming industry is just so darn predictable. Like, it seems every few months, or maybe even weeks at this point, Bethesda, Electronic Arts, and Activision Blizzard just take their turns slapping consumers in the face with a new controversy. Right now, Blizzard is in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons once again. You would think that they would be a little bit more quiet and trying to get on consumers or players' good side after the whole free Hong Kong situation that is kind of finally blown over. But nope, here we go again with more outrage and a lot of people declaring that Blizzard is dead, and I mean, I could have told you that a long time ago. Activision's influence is growing over Blizzard every single day, and it's clear that the company that so many fell in love with in the early 2000s or even before then, they're no more. This is modern day Activision Blizzard, and it's just going to keep on with this nonsense, and a lot of people are going to be upset with the games to come. But right now, as most of you have seen, there's this footage going around showing BlizzCon 2018, in which we see Warcraft 3 Reforged. It looks amazing, the graphics, everything about it, and then we have the current version, which is just downgraded, obviously. Now, obviously a lot of people are taking issue with this footage, but when you go deeper into this and you see a lot of the other complaints and a lot of the other chaos that's happening with this, it's even more, I would say, disappointing. So we have this report coming from CCN, and they kind of outline a lot of the problems that people are having right now. It starts off saying, in an effort to rekindle that nostalgia yesterday, Blizzard released the long-awaited remake Warcraft 3 Reforged. As players eagerly jumped in, the reactions have been nothing short of scathing. Yeah, if you go to Metacritic right now, the user review score is a 0.8 out of 10 with 7,000 ratings, and yeah, it's not looking good. You have this first review saying, disaster called Activision happened to this beloved series of games. I hope Blizzard will realize what to do, so I'm helping with my rate. And the negative reviews go on and on, lots of zeros. And also from critic reviews, it's also pretty darn mixed. But as we get deeper into this article discussing this mess, the general gist that appears to permeate each impassioned post from disappointed players is that Blizzard has lost its touch and is a shadow of its former self. Indeed, indeed. Calls for refunds resonate ever louder as more players sample Warcraft 3 Reforged, with some even laying out the steps for players to get their money back, and apparently those players are actually getting banned on Blizzard's forums for doing that, which that's not surprising at all. Blizzard really does love that censorship, really. Complaints levied at Warcraft 3 Reforged run the gamut. The game is ridden with seemingly downgraded graphics, as I just discussed and showed before. It has missing assets, shoddy animations, countless bugs, yes, a lot of people saying it's just downright broken, facets of multiplayer not working correctly, recycled cinematics, sketchy performance, and the absence of a UI refresh, among other promised features. And on Reddit, these are just all the posts right now. Reforged is a disappointment, people saying that they're just having lots of bugs everywhere, multiple crashes, there's a slow frame rate and other issues, and then we have all the features that are missing, that were promised: automated tournaments, clans, profiles, ladders, 3D animated campaign backgrounds, 3D portraits, animated portraits in Battle.net, / commands in Battle.net chat, communal channels listing, custom campaigns, Battle.net news section, ROC campaign balance, and you get the gist now. But if you don't get the gist, as I was recording and editing this video, more stuff happened. Like, the Metacritic user review score just continues to crash lower and lower. Right now it stands at 0.6. Ouch. Speaking of ouches, Activision Blizzard stock is currently taking a pretty large dump, down over 5%, which, like fall of 2019, just means billion-dollar losses once again from yet another PR disaster. Also, a Twitter user apparently discovered that the reason why main menu performance on Warcraft 3 Reforged is so awful is because it's actually a web application running on Chrome, which something like that and all the other problems with this nostalgic dumpster fire makes me just wonder if the developers over at Blizzard were forced to rush to the finish line, which, hey, that wouldn't be too surprising considering who runs Blizzard nowadays. You know, Activision's horrible leadership and the terrible CEO, Bobby Kotick. Furthermore, and this actually got a good giggle out of me, custom lobbies on the official Blizzard map Booty Bay cannot apparently be made because modern Battle.net censors the word booty. You can't make any of this stuff up. it's just a lot of disappointment in the air, and a lot of people are coming to the realization, finally, that Blizzard, the one that so many fell in love with, is no more. And then we have a lot more posts. I feel ashamed that Blizzard tricked me. Is this a joke? This is the release version, right? As you can see, placeholder assets. Then, obviously, we just went over the Metacritic score, which is just horrible right now. The overall reception is just, it's baffling. But this is what happens when Blizzard doesn't listen to consumers or players. And then we have this report: Blizzard reportedly bans users on Warcraft forums. There are even reports that Blizzard attempted to quell the discontent by banning users on the official Warcraft 3 forums, seeking out refunds. And that's actually very, very interesting, because there's much more to this specific situation with refunds. A lot of gaming news outlets are actually reporting on this, saying that a lot of users are unfortunately being hit by bans by Blizzard for just helping users get the refund that many, they deserve. Blizzard reportedly banning users after Warcraft 3 fiasco. According to Reddit earlier today, users trying to help others refund Warcraft 3 Reforged are being banned from the official forums. However, several sources have come forward to confirm that players just trying to find the refund option were flagged by Blizzard for no reason at all. Additional reports also suggest that players are being silenced for criticizing the game without resorting to profanity, and to make matters worse, because disasters like this always have layers, there's a lot of outrage going over Blizzard's new end-user agreement, which pretty much makes sure that they have ownership over all the custom games and things that are made for Warcraft 3. So we have this article again coming from CC, and they say, Blizzard owns your creativity. Many game modes have been invented thanks to Warcraft 3. The most well-known is Dota, and Blizzard does not own that game. Instead, Valve does, mainly because they approached the original mod's creator to produce a standalone sequel. Now it seems like Blizzard is completely terrified of losing out again, which technically that just means Activision, who has full control over this company now. According to user Thunderpope on Blizzard's forums, the new user agreement for Warcraft 3 effectively gives the company ownership over anything you make using the world editor. That means that without any permission or compensation, your original idea can be taken away and sold by Blizzard. Imagine if Bethesda had done something like that with Skyrim, like, hey, you know that amazing mod that you make? Well, you don't have any ownership over it now. We can do whatever we want with it. This is just another thing that a lot of people were getting outraged about. I believe that this came before Warcraft 3 or Reforged even released, so it's just layers of dump right now on this huge disaster, and couldn't have happened to a worse company. You gotta understand that Activision Blizzard is greedy. They are a horrible company, and they only care about money these days. That Blizzard that you fell in love with years ago is sadly gone, and unfortunately, this is just the chaos that we're going to continue to see in the future. But I do find it very interesting that there's a lot of talk about lawsuits right now, because Blizzard isn't exactly giving out Warcraft 3 Reforged refunds to everybody. So we have this post coming on the Blizzard forums. I'm not sure if this user's been banned yet, but maybe they will be. So the battle.net support/help whatever system to request a refund for Warcraft 3 Reforged is saying there's nothing to refund. I have paused the installer Warcraft 3 Reforged. It has not been installed on any of my devices. If Activision Blizzard refuses to do refunds on this game, we may need to contact lawyers and start a class action lawsuit. And there's been a lot of talk about that on the Blizzard forum, so that may be something coming, especially if Blizzard doesn't, do what they should do, which is give people their money back from this just abomination. Now, if we go to Reddit, there's even more talk about this. Warcraft 3 Reforged refund request denied, breaching Australian consumer law. I've been attempting to play Warcraft 3 Reforged since it came out. I've managed to play a few prologue missions and 2 or 3 full versus matches without crashing. Extremely unhappy, I decided to refund the game, as is my legal right under, Australian consumer law. The automated process was instantly denied due to too much playtime. So I appealed to the live chat. Right from the get-go, it did not go well. Apparently all purchases are final, but they can still offer refunds if they want to. What follows is the chat log, and essentially Blizzard's denying refunds right now for this, and a lot of people are bringing up maybe there should be a lawsuit filed against them. That'll be something to watch, but a reminder that Bethesda's Fallout 76 recently got in trouble with Australian courts over denial of refunds. So if I have to assume, I'm gonna say that there's a good chance that Blizzard will end up being forced to do consumers or Australian consumers right. Also, like with all of these dumpster fires in this AAA gaming industry, usually live services, because there's many rightfully pointing out that Blizzard, broke the law by misleading purchasers, blatant false advertising by not delivering on what was promised. So some serious legal problems are indeed ahead for this once beloved company. This is just a giant mess for them right now, again. Like, we're just a few months removed from the whole Hong Kong situation, and here Blizzard is back again upsetting their loyal players, which, it baffles me. I think it really began with Diablo Immortal, then it was the huge Hong Kong situation, which went on for a few months, and now here we are again with another disaster. It just makes me wonder what is next. But we now move on to our next story, which is revolving around Electronic Arts, and they reported that Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, the single-player adventure, was a giant success. What a surprise that a Star Wars game which is focused on narrative would do so well. And I say that because apparently Electronic Arts is very surprised, which it's kind of baffling, but whatever. Let's get to this story from Kotaku. They say that the early expectations that EA had was that the game would sell 6 million to 8 million copies, but those expectations have been raised because the game has already sold more than 8 million copies. They're now expecting 10 million copies by the end of March this year. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, maybe not the most original game, but it was a ton of fun, and it was a great Star Wars adventure, and honestly, I cannot wait to see more from what Respawn can deliver with this franchise. And it's also just great to see a narrative-focused Star Wars game which is good in quality. Now, this is a quote coming from EA CEO Andrew Wilson, and I found it very... It's interesting. He says, as we start to look at the broader player base in each of the cohorts within that, we're looking to build experiences that satisfy their needs and motivations. And what we've come to understand, particularly with Star Wars, it's a really, really big fan base. Okay there, Android. And while social interaction, competition, and multiplayer is really important for a large portion of that fanbase, what we have seen through the last quarter is also that inspiration and escape model, that the living the Jedi journey, living the Jedi story. Apparently EA is surprised that a single-player Star Wars game would do well, which that actually kind of makes me even more concerned. They actually thought that, and also they're just coming to the realization that Star Wars has a big fanbase. I don't understand these company executives, and they're just so out of touch with what consumers actually want. Additionally, I mean, this is the company with exclusive rights to make Star Wars games. This is the type of insight that I expect from a frickin' toddler, not the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar gaming entertainment company. Then again, this is Electronic Arts that we're talking about, so yeah, maybe a little expected. Anyway, as we've discussed in prior reports, mainly from Kotaku's Jason Schreier, it doesn't even sound like EA CEO Andrew Wilson cares too much for the Star Wars IP, as he prefers to concentrate their efforts, time, and resources on IP that they 100% own. So that dream of a giant Star Wars open world like Star Wars 1313 was supposed to be, or maybe a Witcher 3 in scope Star Wars adventure. It doesn't sound like we're going to be getting that anytime soon, and I say that especially because this is a company that has grown off of unsustainable greed, and because of that they really rely on that live service money. As it's being reported by GameSpot here, EA made almost $1 billion from microtransactions last quarter. That is insane. But what's even more insane is that their stock still tanked based on an earnings call which happened just the other day, because they didn't make enough money. And the interesting thing about this is that their stock tanked about 6%. So even though Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order was a massive success, their stock still tanked. And it's because they rely on that live service money, and without it, stuff like this happens. So are we going to see giant Star Wars single-player adventures in the future? Are we going to see more of that? Or are we going to see more, live service, multiplayer-centric Star Wars adventures, which, have more recurrent consumer spending? If I had to guess, it's just, this is what EA is all about these days, and they are not going to be changing that anytime soon. So maybe we'll have Jedi Fallen Order sticking around as maybe a franchise, a sub-franchise, I guess. But beyond that, I don't know. Now, in some other news coming from EA's recent investor call, Anthem, it did not get mentioned at all, which is interesting just because this is a game that came out in early February or mid-February, and it died out pretty darn fast. And since then, the road plan was pretty much just broken into pieces, and eventually everything did release, but it just, nothing went well for Anthem. And BioWare veterans started to depart. A lot of them were like, no, we still believe in this. Even EA CEO Android Wilson was like, yeah, we have big plans for Anthem. Then there was some reports that I even reported on. I was actually, I believe, the first person to report that Anthem was getting a relaunch sometime this year, and still we have no word on what's happening to Anthem. And this game is dead. It's dead in the water right now. Like, nobody is playing this game at all, and I don't really know if there's a future for this franchise. And I do wonder if EA is going to eventually tell BioWare, yeah, maybe we should just move on from this disaster. But for now, I guess it's just a waiting game. But I mean, Anthem is, I just wonder, how do you get hype back? Even if there is a relaunch with spectacular new content that may interest people, it's just a lot of people have given up on this premise and just don't care. So I have a lot of questions that I guess won't be answered anytime soon, unless BioWare shocks everybody. But based on EA not talking about this in their investor call, and based on SEC rules, I'm going to say it's very unlikely we're going to be hearing about Anthem Year 2, or whatever it's going to be called, anytime soon. But to our final topic of the day, we have Bethesda. And if you have not already heard, Doom Eternal will not have microtransactions or an in-game store. And the fact that that is a top story in 2020 is just, it's sad. But that's where this AAA gaming industry is at this point. Now, I saw a lot of people saying that id Software is going against Bethesda with this decision, and I don't agree at all. This is Bethesda's decision. They are the publisher, and they're just being very careful with this game, and I think that's the smart decision. But there are other things that we're about to go over which indicate that Bethesda is getting ready to do some more greedy nonsense that I know a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, Bethesda, can you stop? But in all honesty, Doom Eternal is a Game of the Year contender, so it not having any of this, microtransaction, macrotransaction nonsense is a good thing. And I do think that this is a step in the right direction, but I mean, this is Bethesda. They have changed just like Blizzard, and I don't know what my expectations for them are in the future. But the fact that they are not going to ruin Doom Eternal with a bunch of nonsense, that's a good thing. To our next story, this is actually what I was referring to a minute ago. Bethesda is preparing a loyalty program, and they are hiring a loyalty program manager. This is right now on LinkedIn. It says the loyalty program manager will have the unique opportunity to develop, launch, enhance, optimize, and manage Bethesda's loyalty and cross-sell marketing programs, ensuring that Bethesda builds and maintains a best-in-class customer experience throughout the layer lifecycle, whatever. But the big thing is, it looks like Bethesda is preparing for a Uplay-like system of sorts, probably something that will be announced around E3, and this is just another way for them to make money off of macrotransactions and all other stuff, and stuff people can earn. If you've used Uplay, you kind of understand what Bethesda is going to be trying to do here. I have mixed emotions about this, but this is a company that really is going out of their way to monetize all of their franchises, so that'll be very interesting, and I really can't say much more about that until we see what specifically is in it. But for now, I definitely am staying cautious, just because there always seems to be a monetization scheme with everything that Bethesda does these days. But as I said before, Doom Eternal's not being ruined by any of that nonsense, so hopefully Bethesda isn't looking to do any more damage with any of their other IPs, but time will have to tell with that. Finally, we move on to Fallout 76, and as most of you know, last month there was that big story with Fallout 76 hackers, which were going around stealing the items just within a snap, less than 2 seconds. They were taking entire inventories from other players, and that lasted nearly a day. And the reason why it lasted nearly a day was because this was happening during Christmas break. Fallout 76 hackers just attacked the game, and they show the incompetence of Bethesda. Finally, though, this publisher developer is actually helping out these Fallout 76 hacked victims, giving their entire player inventories back, and it's just an all-around good thing. but it really shouldn't have happened to begin with, and also the fact that a lot of these players went about a month without having any of these items, and probably have moved on. It's still not a very good look. But this is a report coming from Rock Paper Shotgun. They say last month hackers stole Fallout 76 items from player inventories while they were inside the game. Literally, they were taking shirts from their backs. Less than 2 seconds, like I said before, everything was gone from certain players' inventories, including the weapons on their back and shirts. Bethesda's solution has been to create clones of affected players with the pre-theft inventories intact. If victims want to keep the gear they've gained since the hack and not switch to a month-old backup, Bethesda is offering an unusual experience. They'll log in as your clone and meet you in-game to hand it all back, face to clone face. Fallout 76, the gift that keeps on giving. That is very, very true. Now, the problem with Fallout 76 that I have right now is that these glitches, these hacks, these exploits are just continuing to happen. Like, if you go over to these hacker forums, there's still talk about other hacks, like a duping hack. And you have one user, ErectBan, we've talked about this person in the past, he's pretty much just says that Bethesda's incompetence is hilarious because, yeah, these duplication glitches are still happening, and then there's other hacks that are still going around, like a weapon hack. It's just astonishing that this just keeps on happening, and it doesn't seem like Bethesda is able to stop any of this because it just consistently happens. It's been like this since the game launched back in November of 2018. But what's even more concerning is that a prior bug, which, if you recall, when Fallout first launched, a lot of people were losing their scrap, all of their scrap, when they put it in the scrap box, and Bethesda ended up compensating these users by giving them new scrap boxes with all kinds of cool stuff within them, and pretty much all the scrap in the game. It was valuable. It was definitely a good thing that they did, but the problem is that a lot of cheaters, hackers, they ended up duplicating these stash boxes that Bethesda gave, and these items went throughout the Fallout 76 world, being traded around, and a lot of players unfortunately got banned because of this, just because they had the items in their inventories. So, as reported by YouTuber Juicehead, he does a lot of Fallout videos, he's pretty much the Fallout 76 news guy. He reported that right now there are certain hacker groups, or a certain hacker specifically, who is upset with this ban wave, and how they're retaliating against Bethesda is quite concerning. Essentially, what is happening is that they're duplicating unobtainable legendary weapons and just giving it out to all kinds of random people, friends, and they're hoping that Bethesda bans them just to show how incompetent it is to ban people for having certain items in their inventory. So this could be another crisis to come. It's just another wait and see, but as that Rock Paper Shotgun article pointed out, Fallout 76 is certainly the gift that keeps on giving, and with Wastelanders quickly approaching, it just could be another disaster to be. But for now, I think it's a good thing that Fallout 76, after all this nonsense, it's probably a good thing that there never was crossplay for this game, because I could just imagine that the chaos that has erupted on PC, it would be 10 times worse if it happened on PlayStation or Xbox. Anyway, we discussed quite a bit of news and stuff going on with Bethesda, Electronic Arts, and Blizzard. It's just another day in the AAA gaming industry, really. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on everything that is happening down in the comment section below, but thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video, or if you found any informative value, and make sure to follow my other social media accounts for updates on new videos. Links are always down in the description below. I'm most active on Twitter, giving opinions on news that I do not always get into video form, so do make sure to follow me over there. Also check out my Discord for all sorts of discussion on games, and again, thank you for joining, consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.